Hi, Doug here from unSkript. And while unSkript can be used in lots of ways to help the DevOps teams and your SREs to automate away manual processes, increase your observability, and lots of other things, one question we get asked a lot is, can we use unSkript to help us understand where our cloud costs are coming from? And so we built a runbook here, and I want to give you an example of how we can use unSkript to understand your cloud costs. And so behind the scenes here, there's a couple things going on. One is we're generating the Amazon cost and usage report. And what happens there is AWS, you identify an S3 bucket, and a couple times a day, a SQL file is dumped into that S3 bucket. I have another runbook, which I'll show in another video, that takes that data from that zip file in S3 and loads it into Redshift. And so Redshift's a database, and now we can make queries on it and understand where our costs are coming from inside of our AWS environment. So let's walk through the runbook here. There are a couple of actions here. This first action here gets the secret ARN, and you need an ARN to be able to access your Redshift database. I'm not going to show you the results here because it's my secret. But it outputs this into a variable, and that variable is called the secret ARN, and you'll see that in a second. The next thing we do is we have we call it a glue action, and what this is doing is it's creating the SQL query. And the thing about the SQL query is that it's grabbing a table that's called AWS billing year month. And so I'm doing some date time stuff here to make sure that the AWS billing year month is always the correct. So right now it's AWS billing 2023-03 because it's March 2023. But come April 1st, it'll flip over to AWS billing 2023-04. And so this is just generating the query. It's saving that query as SQL query. And then we get to the actual Redshift query that connects into AWS. It needs to know the region where my Redshift database is. The SQL query is a variable that I generated up here. The cluster is Doug billing. The database is called dev, and my secret ARN is the variable that I generated up here in this first action right here. So what we can do is we can actually run this query right now. And when you run the query, you get a result ID. So basically what's happening is the query is being run at AWS, but sometimes Redshift queries can take a really long time. Sometimes they're really fast. So it doesn't give you the result. You don't have to sit here and wait and watch it spin. You now have to see, like, is it done? And so we have a second action here that says, hey, is it done? So we're going to take this result ID and get the feedback on the query. And it actually says that the query, here's the output of this action. And it says that the result is ready. And they report the time in nanoseconds. So it took 102 milliseconds for it to run, and there are 151 rows in the result. Okay, so now that we have that and we have the query ID, now we can get the result. And so this just pulls the result from Redshift. And now we're going to build a chart. And so to build the chart, we take that result from AWS, we pop it into a data frame, and we build some plots with matplotlib. And so what we can see here is that today's March 9th, and so we can see the usage every single day for a whole bunch of AWS features. And you can see here there's nothing that worries me, right? Everything is going even. There's a downshift on the 9th. That's probably because it's not the end of the day yet. So like the end of the day hasn't populated. It's sort of like when you look at your Google Analytics and today is really low because it hasn't finished the day. And what we can see here is that our EC2, this gray matches the EC2 gray. There are a bunch of grays here, but that matches sort of our usage pattern inside unSkript. I built a second chart that shows like the under $10 over all of the days, just to see if there are any bounces around in the weeds here. And like, are we worried that it's jumping from $1 to $2 or $2 to $4? No, but we want to get an idea of these trends. We want to see if things are growing or changing. The last chart I have here is just showing the last 7 days of usage because, when you get to the end of the month, the chart can be really, really big. So maybe it's just useful to look at the last couple days. And you can actually see here that it's showing the 10th because I'm recording this in the evening and we've passed midnight GMT. So that's what's going on there. But again, what I can see here is that there's nothing really alarming. Everything is kind of staying in a steady state. But what you might see here is if something goes up, that might generate something to go investigate deeper, right? If one of these things goes up higher, like this lime green one is, you can figure out which one is lime green and then say, why did that go up? And we can do more queries to understand what's going on. We can build more run books to better understand that. The last thing I built here is just an alert if something changes over 5%. This probably needs a little bit of tweaking, because if something that was costing me 50 cents goes up to like 60 cents, I don't know if I need an alert on that. But like if my, my EC2 went from 25 bucks to, I don't know, 28 bucks, that would probably also fire an off alert. So clearly this is just like, let's see if it happens, and we can send off an alert and we can refine this a little bit more. But basically it's looking at the 9th versus the 8th. And, this actually probably isn't all that great because the 9th hasn't finished yet. But what we see is that there have been no big changes. So no alert would be sent off at this point. So this gives you an idea of some of the things you might be able to do with unSkript with some of the reporting that Amazon gives you. You can generate some charts so you can see how things are going. You could generate alerts. If something increases by a certain amount, maybe we need to investigate further, but you definitely want your team to know that. So in addition to building these dashboards that we now have, we can also build some alerts based on the results that we're getting here. So in my next video, I'm going to show you how we further drill down on our EC2 spend, because of course that's interesting to us and that's probably where the biggest money is right now. Get an understanding of how we're spending our EC2 budget. So watch for that in our next video, and thanks for watching.